Yeah, I think one thing that will really never change is, and it seems like every time we have these conversations with our dealers, they don't really, or they kind of have blinders on towards it, is, around fixed ops and service. And it's something that, we're constantly pushing. We're trying to make sure it's incorporated into everything that we do, but a lot of times it's really not top of mind because of the way that the OEMs are structured and pushing for certain incentives. So for me, as we go into these conversations, as we have, meetings with potential partners, it's constantly looking at, what is your service absorption? How full are your bays at any given time? What can we do to make sure that you're continuously driving money through your service bays? And then from there, it's looking at the process of transferring service customers in equity into new or used vehicles, right? It's how do we transfer those customers over, and do we have a process for that? And most dealers don't, right? I mean, I can just think of my personal shopping experiences, the time I've been in the service drive, and there's really not a process there. But we know that we're getting a lot of people every day through our service bay. If you walk into any dealership, and I'm sure anybody on here that works in a store, if you go sit in your service bay first thing in the morning, I guarantee you that service bay has more people than the sales showroom. Yet we're letting all of those people just come in and go without even having the conversation or looking into whether or not we have the potential to turn them into a repeat sales customer or a new sales customer. So for me, I'm constantly looking at that service side of the business and figuring out how we can, drive additional customers to come through there and ultimately be repeat customers for us.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic call out. Matt, something we talked about kind of on this topic is lack of affordability and that potentially leading to more opportunity with CPOs. I think that's a unique perspective. We don't really talk about CPO super often. Can you kind of talk through your thought process there and any sort of untapped opportunity that dealers might have?
Yeah, and I mean, when we think about affordability, it kind of is one of those things that we might have our own blinders on, dependent on what brand or maybe even locale we work at. But I do think that whether there are OEM related barriers like a factory shortage, fire, what have you, or it might be a model changeover or something to that extent, right? We are still seeing kind of that higher cost for these new vehicles. And I think the days of old of having the unicorns of $10,000 and below used vehicles is kind of petered out now at this point. I'd actually argue the 15Ks are our new unicorns, but we still have to solve that middle gap, right? And that's that middle price point. And I would challenge you all to kind of take a step back and think, all right, while certified isn't exactly the highest searched concept out there, do we have it merchandised effectively on our site? Do we have our own process for when a customer does submit a lead on, let's say, a 2016 Ram 1500, but we also have a couple of those in the certified group? And I say certified in the sense of this could account for your loaners, your CTPs, your demos, you name it, kind of put it in that bucket. Because again, those vehicles are like new, get the benefit of pre-owned while also coming with those additional warranties and or call outs. So I think as we progress into 2026, you're gonna have your used inventory, you're gonna have your new, but how do you leverage that certified for kind of bridging that gap for someone that might have came in on a new vehicle that's just a little bit too outside of their price point because of the rates that they're experiencing? What if we fill it with certified? And now looking at those processes in merchandising, I think is key.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and I think summarizing both of those statements from the two of you is sort of at times when there may be inventory shortages or there may be difficult selling conditions, you probably will need to get a little bit more creative about how you're leveraging your existing inventory or your service customers. Like there are opportunities out there, and we're three advertising guys who are talking dealer operations in some ways, but so often we see that everybody's kind of chasing to, I need more leads, I need more leads, I need more leads. And that's not always the solution. Steve mentioned 1% better and how we can reach that number. If we increase our close rate by 1%, how many more sales is that going to get us by per month. What does that look like if we just increase our close rate by 1% by doing some of these tactics that Steve and Matt mentioned, without increasing budget, without any more leads? What does that actually mean? Because it's going to end up normally for the average dealer, it's going to end up 3 to 5 extra sales per month, which is that's a difference between hitting your numbers and not hitting your numbers. So I think that the takeaway for me is, how can we get creative in some instances when the market may be in a more difficult spot to actually push sales and kind of get a little bit nitty gritty and get in the mud to make stuff happen.